Hey, beautiful star beings. This is Meagan Mermaid with your monthly live journey. I'm not even sure what I'm doing here today, but I was just called to come on because I feel like we're going through a lot of shifts. And it's really important that we kind of talk about what's happening. So, when we talk about things, when we share things, when we come together in this space of witnessing, the fears, the things that are sort of like in our minds can kind of we can sort of find relief. It's when the fears are sort of like rattling around and we're not speaking them or sharing them that we start to feel isolated or lonely and things like that. So if you're new to my work, my name is Meagan Mermaid, and I'm a galactic guide and channel for galactic consciousness. And my role is supporting star beings in activating their divine purpose, connecting to their creative genius, and receiving the support that they deserve from their star family. Hi, Leah. Welcome. I'm so happy to have you here. So, I wanted to talk today about the energy of April because I don't know if you feel it yet, but there's this big shift. Last month in March, we had Saturn moving into Pisces as well as Pluto moving into Aquarius. And so there's a lot of shifts that are happening. We're also in this a new season. We're in the season of spring. Hi, Rhea. Good to see you. I'm so glad to see you guys on, especially since this was spontaneous. But there were three words that were given to me for the energy of April, and they are consistency, commitment, and compassion. Three C's, right? Easy to remember. So I'm going to talk a little bit about each of those today. And then I pulled some cards from one of my decks, and I'm going to be pulling from my deck as well, and kind of just talk about how to navigate these waters. So there is a Celtic word called Imrama. And you can kind of see it here on this Mermaid Oracle card, which is by Lucy Cavendish. I love this Mermaid Oracle deck. If you don't already have one, you should definitely get it. And so the word Imrama is a voyage. It's like a quest, and usually it's over water. But we're sort of in our own Imrama right now. We're on this quest. We're on this voyage of awakening, both individually and collectively. And so in this chapter in April, what we need to do is really dig our heels in and stay the course. And so that's going to mean really focusing this month on our heart chakra, our root chakra, and our throat chakra. So consistency is the first word, right? We are going to sort of experience a lot of turbulence. There's a lot that's happening in the collective, and it's a lot of good things, really. You might actually be feeling lighter this month. You might be feeling like you have more energy. And with that being said, there's a lot of people that are being triggered and projected onto on a daily basis and are just starting to awaken. And so we're also sort of having to alchemize that energy. So that means some days it might be smooth sailing and sometimes it might be turbulent seas. So this idea of consistency is going to support us to just keep showing up. Just keep showing up. So if you have these really big goals and you're like, I need to do this, 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 and this, and then you get to the end of the day or the end of the week and you're like, man, like I thought I would have accomplished so much more. And then like the self shame and all that comes through. You got to figure out like how can you focus on one thing at a time this month and see it through to completion. So we have this energy of Aries, and Aries is this cardinal energy. So it's this energy of starting things. The cardinal energy isn't always great at finishing things. So that's where we kind of have to fill in that gap, where we're going to experience a lot of momentum, but we have to address and kind of channel that momentum in the right spaces so we don't waste it. So even if it's just showing up for one thing every day, think of three things that you want to commit to by the end of this month, three things that you want to complete, and focus on just those three things. And if there's more things, write them on a list of things that you'll do later, but really just focus on how can you really begin to build this energy and this muscle within you of completion. It's going to be really important for later chapters. So the consistency part is just keep showing up, right? So even if you show up and say you're writing something and you commit to writing a page a day, okay, write your page. Even if it's just journaling about how crappy the day was, you showed up, you're giving your consistency. Or if it's something where you just don't have that time to write a page, show up, write a sentence, write a word. Really, it's just this muscle that you're beginning to develop. The consistency is what gets us there. So oftentimes we think that we're going to have these like big leaps in consciousness, and that happens rarely. More often it's really just these little baby steps that happen day by day, moment by moment, action by action. And as we take those steps, uh, it's also really important for us to be with our emotions and be with everything that's coming up. Because oftentimes the resistance that we have is emotionally based. It's because there's some type of limiting belief that's in our mental body. Yeah, right. As giving those strong emojis. I love that. So what happens is things start out like in our mental body and limiting beliefs, and the mental body is kind of stored within our solar plexus chakra. And then we have these emotions that are caused by our limiting beliefs and the mental patterns and programming that we've picked up from our DNA and from our ancestry and from our experiences. And then that kind of goes into our astral body, our emotional body, which is kind of stored in our sacral chakra. And then by the time it gets to our physical body, it can create like issues in our body. It can create ailments, and it can create all sorts of things. So it's really important that we honor all of the subtle bodies, everything that's happening. And when you feel like you're facing that resistance of the consistency, that's when you want to just turn inward with your self-care practice and ask like, okay, what do I need to find relief right now? So rather than just trying to force or push the action, go for a walk, make yourself a nourishing meal, put on your, I love my diffuser, and sense incense. I have incense going on all the time, candles. It's just, what do you have to do to kind of like entice yourself into this consistency? So that's the first part. Just keep showing up. And then the second part is commitment. And so this is sort of building on that consistency, where because sometimes in this imrama, on this journey voyage that we have of the soul, sometimes we're going to be flying high and things are going to be really well and abundance is going to be flowing in and we're going to be feeling really good about ourselves. And then we're going to go in those ebbs and flows. And it's really important to remember that there are always going to be ebbs and flows. But what happens is when we get into that valley and things are slowing down, or the abundance isn't coming in, or we're experiencing tension in a relationship, or that trauma is coming up, that's when we have to dig our heels into the ground and commit. So if you have this divine purpose and you're like, I want to focus on my business, or I want to focus on this creative offering, and then those fear thoughts come up and you're like, I don't know, well, it's not working, it's going slow, like maybe I should do this, or maybe I should do that, or maybe you want to move and like you feel really excited about it, but then those fear thoughts come up of like, oh, like, is this really possible, or can I do this? And so the fear thoughts always come after the intuition. Your intuitive guidance is very clear. It's very crystal clear, and it's very simple. You'll get this knowing and you'll just know, yes, this is the thing. This is the step. And then afterwards, the fear thoughts, the unproductive thoughts create the anxiety and the questioning and the how is it going to happen and the why. And so when you're in that space of fear, that's not your intuition. It's the fear, it's the ego that's trying to talk you out of these things. And there's a quote, I can't remember who said it, but it's something about like, we often prefer an uncomfortable hell to an uncertain heaven, something along those lines. So we'll continue to stay in situations that feel comfortable because the discomfort, no matter how challenging it is, feels easier for our awareness than all of the unknowingness of moving forward. But we have to move forward. We don't have time anymore to try to fit ourselves back into these little boxes. Yeah, yeah, Rhea sharing the fear thoughts always come after the intuition. Thanks for sharing that again. Yeah, it's so true, and it's really important to remember. And so when those fear thoughts arise, that's when we have to stick to that commitment. We have to commit. As long as you're being consistent, as long as you're putting the work in, as long as you're asking your guides and your higher self and the ascended masters, whoever you work with, every single day you can ask for an action step. As long as you're following through on those action steps, you can also ask for signs and synchronicities, and they'll tell you that you're on the right track, but you got to stay on the track. You got to choose the timeline. Hi, Dawn, good to see you. And you got to stay, because even if things aren't moving right now, as long as you stay, that path will lead back to success. It will lead back to abundance. It will lead to healing, but you've got to choose the path and you've got to see it all the way through. Even if it's just for April, you decide, I really want to like put all of my energy this month into my creative offerings, or I really want to put my energy into this relationship. Sometimes we kind of like teeter back and forth with people in our lives and partnerships and think like, well, I don't know, maybe this person is right for me or maybe they're not right for me. And when we have this like kind of going back and forth, um that's the energy that we're going to see. We're going to see inconsistency. So the consistency and the commitment work together, where it's like you choose this path, you go all in, you show up for it every day. And then at the end of April, you can decide again. You can evaluate where are you at now compared to where you were then. And if you choose to follow these paths of consistency and commitment, you will see results. Even if right now, like you're scared shitless and you're like, I don't know how this solution is going to come through. It's okay. Honor the fears. Just as I shared at the beginning of this transmission today, is that it's the fears that go unspoken that create the most harm. So when we have these spaces where we can witness each other and we can talk about it and we can say, oh my gosh, I'm so afraid of this. And sometimes you might not have that person to person place right now, and that's okay. You can write out your fears in a journal. You can speak them to your guides or angels, and you can ask that they just be taken up, but don't let them rent free space in your brain anymore. And so the last of the three words for April is compassion. And so compassion is this really big topic, and I'm going to be discussing it in detail on Wednesday, April 5th at 4 p.m. Pacific in my Starseed journey, activating the compassion portal. And so this Starseed journey is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be a little bit more thorough. We're actually going to be having like teachings from each of the councils that are being present this week. We have the Lyrans, the Sirians, and the Andromedans. So they all have a lot of wisdom that they want to share even before we step into the channeled space. But the reason why is because this idea of compassion is so complex. It's like we have compassion for ourselves and for our body. And that's something that the Lyrans are going to be talking about, how we can continue to have compassion, especially for our bodies as we're processing and healing our mental and astral bodies, and how that creates the symptoms of physical illness or dis-ease within our physical body. The Lyrans are going to be talking with us about how to clear that, how to honor that, how to kind of ride those waves towards deeper self-compassion. And they're also going to be supporting us in how to have compassion for our ancestry and our DNA. The Lyrans were one of the star nations whose home was literally destroyed and they were rerouted to Earth. So this idea of having these wounds inside of our DNA, of feeling like our home is lost, feeling invaded, all of these things. It's very important that we honor them and we witness them and we have compassion for them in order to kind of integrate them back into our system. And so the Lyrans are going to be helping with that. And the Andromedans are going to be supporting us in having compassion for the earth and having compassion for all of the races or groups of beings or species that have sort of uh, used or abused the earth in many ways. And, oftentimes our first uh, kind of instinct is to want to get angry or want to get upset. And that's part of the healing journey. We have to honor those feelings, whether it's like something that's been done to us or to the earth or to others. Having that anger is okay. We don't want to push those feelings away. But the Andromedans are going to support us in how to take that anger and redirect it into the creativity and the beauty that's going to support us in bringing the vibration of the earth higher, in holding her as she holds us, so that we can have this co-creative, harmonious healing and balance together. And then the Sirians are going to be supporting us in how to have compassion for our starseed journey and compassion for being in this human form and what that means. There's a lot that's happening in the starseed community, in the new age community, and in pretty much any community really, but just this idea of wanting to escape. And there's a lot of like really horrible atrocities that are happening all over the world. And sometimes it can feel really challenging to look at those things. We might want to look away or numb ourselves, but the Syrians are going to support us in really practical tips and tools in how to open that space of compassion within this human journey that we have, really getting inside our bodies without letting those feelings consume us. So there's a lot that's happening with that. If you're interested in it, it's going to be a really powerful ceremony. But just to kind of preface what this idea of compassion is for the month of April is it's really just being available to the fact that everything that triggers us also triggers other people. And so if we take it into a more meta space and we see that like we're all God and we're God like in costume, or I think it was Alan Watts or someone that said God in drag, and like, we're all playing these parts, we're playing these roles. Hi, Courtney, good to see you. Aw, thank you so much for your sweet comment. I appreciate you as well. So, we're all playing these roles and we all have soul contracts with each other where it's like, in chapter 6, this starseed is going to meet this starseed and this starseed will betray them. Well, that starseed will be, you know what I mean? So it's like, there's literally like a script, and we have to understand that there's, I'm grateful for you too, Dawn. We have to understand that, yes, there is like this free will, but there's also this like divine plan. So, in the gene keys, you can learn more about that. I believe it's the 55th and the 22nd gene keys that talk about like the paths of involution and evolution, where it's like, yes, we have free will to like a point, but like we're also playing out this whole thing. And that's a whole nother topic for another starseed message. But the point of that is that when we recognize that we're all playing roles and that even the people that hurt us are playing the role to hurt us so that we can receive the lesson that we need, and we hurt other people because they need that lesson, where it's like this bigger thing where we just we wanted to see what would happen when humanity and consciousness in general like was just put on this planet in all of these experiments. And this is what happens, and we just have to recognize, okay, this is where we're at. And rather than looking away and rather than trying to blame or rather than trying to point the finger, we just witness it and we love it all and we love ourselves and we move forward from that space. So the chakras that I mentioned this month, the root chakra, the heart chakra, and the throat chakra. Root chakra first, and that's kind of why I'm wearing red today. I have my red shirt and my red lipstick because I feel like it's really important this month that we stay grounded. And whenever you want to work with a specific chakra, it is really helpful to wear that color or to eat foods of that color or to have crystals of that color. So this month's colors, I would say, are red. The heart chakra can be be emerald green, as well as the inner heart is like this really pretty pink color, kind of like my rose quartz. And then the throat chakra is like a sky blue, sort of like my Larimar. Yay, thank you, Rhea. And so, root chakra stuff is feeling unstable. Ooh, Dawn's wearing red too. I love the synchronicities. Oh, and I just noted I noticed the live button is red too. But anyway, so the root chakra governs like this idea of stability, right? And that's kind of where these two ideas of commitment and consistency come together. It's in this root chakra where you've got to feel safe enough to know that the universe has got you. And even if you don't have the solution, you've just got to take it step by step. Keep showing up, dig your heels in, and stay committed to the path and the timeline that you're choosing for this month. And know that when you do that, and you can even imagine that like there's roots at the bottom of your feet and you're really just digging into the earth and letting her support you this month. That's going to help you when we go through those ebbs and flows of uncertainty. And so when you kind of feel like you're spiraling, where maybe like money concerns are coming up, for example, that's a root chakra fear, or feeling like you're not protected or you're not safe, that's when you can tune into the earth, and that's when you can tune into your senses. So what you can see, hear, taste, touch, and smell, going back to that self-care practice, nourishing yourself through self-care by getting back into your body. The heart chakra is the other one, and that really has to do with the energy of compassion. So, we don't always have to know how to be compassionate towards people, but we can be willing, because there are certain people, and let's be real, that are just gonna make us really mad or really upset. And those people are serving a great purpose, because they're showing us where we still have work to do, where we can still get provoked. And the more that like we can kind of see those situations with curiosity rather than fear, the easier it's going to be to move through those situations. Because right, it's easy to blame that person. Oh, well, if they weren't doing this, then I wouldn't get so mad. Or why can't they just see it this way? Or why do they have to be that way? Or if they would just fix this, then they wouldn't be dealing with that. And that's when we get into this idea of like self-righteousness and ego. And we're not here to fix people. We're here to love them, and we're here to love ourselves. And that's really hard. So the Star Nations are going to be supporting us this month in ways to kind of get started in that. And then finally, the throat chakra this month, where we really have to kind of step up. And I'm hearing the words, speak before you're prepared, show up before you're ready, be the vessel, be the willing vessel. Okay. So, for example, I had no idea what I was going to talk about when I got on this call today. But like I was told, you got to get on camera today and just start talking. And so that's what I did. That was my step today, my commitment and my consistency. I showed up. And then when we start to work in this co-creative partnership with the universe, with the earth, with our guides, with our higher self, we all we have to do is show up in that willingness and that faith and that trust, and whatever comes through is the right thing. And so, whether it's a professional offering that you have, yeah, the show up, love that. Show up. All right, I'm here now. But that's why we can kind of let go of this feeling of like we're not prepared, because it's literally like this divine design where you're always going to be connected to the person that you have wisdom for, and they have wisdom for you. It's always going to be this really harmonious interaction, this kind of like double blessing. And so you've got to start before you're ready, because all of these people are starting to kind of wake up, and they don't need perfection, they need leaders. And what is leadership? It's literally just going a couple steps ahead and being like, oh, this is what you should watch out for, or like there's a rock up here, or be careful of this thing, or I fell right here, this is what I learned. And it's not about being perfect, it's not about having all the answers. If you're waiting to have all of the answers, you're going to be waiting this whole incarnation. You're going to miss out, and you're going to have to come back. And we're all going to be like, man, like, you should have just started. So let's not do that. just show up and really just make the prayer every day. Like, where would you have me go? What would you have me do? What would you have me say, and to whom? Like something along those lines. I always say the prayer of Saint Francis. Saint Francis was a really cool guy. Whether or not you agree with like Christian or Christ cosmology, he was just really in this space of connecting with the earth and with animals and being of service. And so his prayer is all about being an instrument of peace. And so let me see if I remember it. It's like, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. Grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it's in giving that we receive, pardoning that we are pardoned, dying that we are born to eternal life. So it's basically just this idea of like the sacrifice and the giving and the serving. And by doing so, it's very similar to in the Bible, is it the Beatitudes? I can't ever pronounce that right. Yeah. But it's literally like when you're in that space of like, I'm just going to show up and be of service, then those root chakra issues of like, will I be okay? They're not a problem anymore because you're in service to the universe. You're working for the universe. You're working for God. So your resources will be divinely supplied. And bringing it back to the Galactics, he was a hippie rock star, right? I know. Yeah. And like St. Francis, he was like no joke. Like I was like reading about him the other day, and like he wanted the stigmata. So like he finally got it like right before he died, and he was just like bleeding, and he's like, don't feel sorry for me. Like I'm receiving the blessing, So he's just like one of those like really awesome rock star people that are like, I will suffer for humanity and be happy for it. We don't necessarily have to do that. We don't have to, experience stigmata wounds, but we do have to show up, and a lot of it will be uncomfortable. And we have to show up anyway, but we can do it together. So going back to the whole idea of the Galactics and how they want to support us is that as a star seed, you've got a star family that wants to support you and make sure that you have all of those resources that you need in order to accomplish this mission. So, if you're interested in learning more about your Starseed family, you can book a personal session with me. And I also have a course called Galactic Leadership Training, which is all about all the different star nations, teaching about different topics for how to show up as a leader in this era, of consciousness that we're in. So I'm going to pull a couple cards from my deck, the Mermaid Empowerment Oracle deck, which literally after 7 years, I almost said 7 fucking years. Well, now I did say 7 fucking years, a long time, right? That's a long time. I'm finally almost done. I literally only have like 4 more cards that I have to edit in the guidebook. So I'm hoping I'm hoping that this will finally be available to you guys within the next month or so. Wow, I'll have to take a look at that. Giovanni Bellini's painting of the stigmatization. Nice. Yeah. Yeah, some things take longer to birth. And so don't ever feel bad if something is taking longer than expected. Okay, so we have, I'm going to pull 3 cards. I really like this energy of 3. Pull, baby, pull. That's funny. Okay, so we have desire. So desire is really recognizing that whatever you want, it's there for a reason. So desire is the fire that illuminates us. It's what drives us, right? We're in Aries season. So it's this idea of having a desire, and then that fire that consumes us to want to move forward. So desire is not wrong in itself. We all have desires. We just have to have a healthy relationship with our desires. And so it's also just reminding us that, whatever that dream is that you have in your heart, whatever you want to accomplish, it's not there for nothing. Like you have what it takes, but you've got to follow those three things this month. So I'd encourage you, write it on a post-it, write it on your mirror this month. Consistency, commitment, compassion. If you want the desires of your heart, you've got to follow those three steps. And then the next card that we have is support. And the mermaid empowerment for this one is I'm surrounded by love and support. So that's where we call in the people around us, our friends, our soul family. And then, yeah, thank you, Leah, sharing consistency, commitment, and compassion. Yes. And it's so nice that they're all C words. It's easy to remember. So when we remember that we are not alone, we're not doing this alone. Humans, just like mermaids, are a pod people. And, we've come through with our soul groups, with our soul families. We have our star family. We have all the star nations. We have so many ascended masters, guides, angels that want to help. And so there was some, I think it was Doreen Virtue that said, before she went on the whole other side of the spectrum and in her belief system, but she said that there's like all of these unemployed angels. And I thought that was such a cute saying, because it's just a reminder that we live in this free will universe, but like we can't actually we have to ask permission for those outside guides and our star family and all those people to help, or energies to help rather. And then lastly, we have this card Paradise. So the mermaid empowerment for paradise is I create paradise with every thought that I think. And so going back to this idea of consistency and commitment and compassion, let's point that towards our thoughts this month, because the more that you start to witness and you practice thought work and mindset work, you're going to notice all of the ways that you have fear thoughts, or you have worry thoughts, or you get stuck focusing on the past or worrying about the future. But you've got to be consistent, and you've got to commit to every time that you have a fear thought or an unproductive thought, rather than shaming yourself or blaming yourself for it. You just choose again, and you just keep redirecting. And the best way to redirect is to get back into your body. So I also really recommend this month movement. So strength training is really good to get into your body. If that doesn't work for you, walking, meditating, stretching, but anything that you can do to create this mind-body connection. So this is something that I've had to work with my whole life, because I'm really in my head. And I'll notice that when I'm teaching my classes. I teach fitness classes, Zumba and Bodyworks, which is like a strength training class. And I'll notice when I start to get deep in my thoughts, I'll mess up, right? I'll mess up my dance moves, or I'll forget. And it's like I have a whole group of people in back of me. So they're all holding me accountable to stay present. So it's kind of funny how I worked that out. But yeah, we really have to focus on those thoughts, because our thoughts are literally being downloaded from the collective consciousness. So it's this whole thing where the more that we can kind of maintain that high vibration, and we can commit to creating paradise, even if we don't see it, it starts with our thoughts. And then we also, through having better thoughts, are contributing to that cloud of the collective consciousness, so that there's better, higher thoughts to think. So it's not just for us to raise our vibration, but it's also our light work, so that we can also be contributing to other people that don't have as many options, and they're just stuck in those loops of really unproductive thoughts. My grandma was watching this news show the other day, and there was a commercial on, and you know how every commercial for every single drug, pharmaceutical drug, is 50 billion side effects. But there was this one, and it was supposed to be talking about, I can't even remember what mental disorder it was, but it was talking about people that deal with these crazy thoughts all the time, and how this medicine would help them, and they could be a part of this clinical trial or something. And that's where it brought up the compassion in me, because I was oh my God, how many people are dealing with unproductive thoughts in the world and have no idea of how to be conscious, or have no idea that they're separate from their thoughts, or have no idea that their external reality doesn't have to control them. That's where the compassion part comes from, where sometimes when we get into the spiritual work, we kind of get far removed from everybody else, and we start to kind of live in our little cloud up here, and we forget how many people are struggling. And so we didn't come here to live in our little cloud. We came here to be like those St. Francis groupies, right? And come back down and be helping and sacrificing. And maybe sacrifice is not a fun word to say, but that's the truth. That's the truth. We're here to serve. And as we serve and we sacrifice and we give people this other opportunity, we're pulling people up. So it's not like, oh, we're just going to go into this new earth and we're going to leave everybody else behind. We've got to lift people up. And as we lift people up and as we lift the earth up, the consciousness raises for everyone. So it's the sacrifice in the short term so that everybody can contribute and everybody can benefit in the long term. And if you're following something else, I really encourage you to use discernment about that, because oftentimes the easy way out idea seems good, but it's not the full picture and it's not the full healing. So I feel like that's a good place to stop today. I really, I'm so grateful for all of you that had a chance to join live. I know it was just like a spontaneous thing, and I had to wait until my daughter wanted to fall asleep. And want is not the right word, to get my daughter to fall asleep for her nap today. 2-year-olds do not enjoy napping. They do not. So I had to be very patient for the right time to come on today. So luckily it was divine timing, and you guys got to join me live or on the replay. So if you want to dive deeper, I really encourage you to join me for activating the compassion portal on Wednesday. The link is down below. And I don't know when I'm going to come back on again. I don't have a set schedule. But I promise that I will be on more. I was going through a whole lot of things, and now I kind of went through that introspection thing, and the universe was like, okay, like you had your moment. Now you get to go back up and talk. So I'll definitely be on more consistently, right? Because that's one of the words this month. So if you're not already subscribed to my channel, I believe that you can subscribe and you can hit that little notification bell. And yeah, get to our magical words. Exactly. Yes. Remember, everything we say is spells too, for sure. But if you hit that notification bell, it will let you know when I do go live so that you won't miss out on future channelings and transmissions. So I love you guys so much. Have a beautiful day. And thanks for being here with me.